everyone, and welcome to the big interview. I'm Kel.
I'm Lisa.
And we are joined today by Matt Mahmood-Ogston, and he is the founder of the Naz and Matt Foundation. Thank you very much for joining us, Matt.
Hello to both of you. How are you?
Yeah, we're good, thank you. We're good. How's lockdown been treating you?
Yep, I guess the same for most people. Challenging, but trying to find the best way through.
Yeah. Your foundation is probably more prevalent now than it's ever been. I'm sure that you've been very busy during lockdown with people being locked in with their families and things like that. Have you noticed a surge in people getting in touch with you guys?
Well, initially for lockdown one, we actually went quite quiet. And when we did some digging around and looking into it more, we began to understand that quite often the people that we support, they were finding it difficult to actually find the right moment where they could speak to us or email us with their family around. Often it's their family that they fear the most in their life. So you know, as the lockdowns progressed and the restrictions progressed, we did start to see it quite a lot more busier, particularly around Christmas. It got very busy for us, where lots of LGBTQ plus individuals from religious families, they were starting to feel immense pressure from their families who wanted to make them do things that they didn't want to do. So it was quite difficult Christmas, really.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I think it's been the same for many communities, hasn't it? So, yeah, a tough one. Matt, with your permission, I'd like to play your short video that the Naz and Matt Foundation have produced, just to give a bit of information to our viewers about what it is that you guys actually do. Would that be okay with you?
Yes, of course, please do. Thank you.
Okay.
Matt Ogston is still struggling with the loss of the man he was due to marry. Dr. Naz Mahmood took his own life in July, days after telling his family he was gay.
He loved his family so much. He loved them. He never wanted to let them down. Well, imagine living in a society where you wake up one morning and you realise that society is going to judge you for the colour of your skin. On top of that, you're then born into a religion which the media don't really give a good time to. And then on top of that, you're then gay as well. So you've got three things already making you having a hard time just to live a normal and free life.
Thanks for letting us show that, Matt. I think it's an absolutely beautiful video. Would you be able to just tell us how the foundation came to be and the events that led up to you wanting to form it?
Yes, of course. So when I was about 23, I finally came out to myself, and in other words, I finally accepted at the age of 23 that I was who I was, and I couldn't change that. And soon after coming out to myself, I met this beautiful man, Naz, who I fell in love with. We quickly became inseparable. We were living in Birmingham at the time, but to be ourselves, to be able to walk down the street together, just to have a normal life, we realised that we would have to run away from Birmingham to London, to the bright lights, to actually find freedom, to find happiness where we didn't have to look over our shoulders. I wasn't out to my family at the time, and Naz wasn't out to his family either. And his family were, well, they are very strict. They're strict in their religion, very conservative in their views. And he knew that he would never be able to come out to his family because he feared what might happen to him if and us if his family found out. So we went away to London where we could have this happy, free life where we did, and we had such a wonderful life which we created for ourselves in this new city. And on our 10-year anniversary, I got down on one knee in a crowded nightclub in the DJ booth, and I looked at Naz and I pulled the a ring out of my underwear because that was the only place I could hide it in the nightclub. And I said to Naz, you know, will you marry me? And he said yes. And that was the happiest day of my life, the day that we agreed that we would get married to each other. And that was on our 10-year anniversary. And we did talk about getting married, but Naz said he didn't think it was right getting married unless he would be able to invite his mom to the wedding. Whether or not she would come is a different question, but he just wanted to be able to invite her. But we both knew that to invite her, that would mean coming out to her. So we actually agreed and knew that that might never happen. But to be honest, it didn't really matter to us because we knew we were going to spend the rest of our lives with each other. And then about 3 years later, we just recently lost a friend of ours, and we travelled up to see family. And this was during Eid, and when Naz was about to leave his family home to come back with me to London to go to our friend's funeral, there was a confrontation, and that confrontation led Naz to having no option but to actually admit the fact that he liked men. He told them, his parents, that, or one of his parents, that he was in love with me, he was engaged to get married. And his parents' reaction to him coming out in that moment at the age of 34 was to tell him that he had to go to see a psychiatrist to be cured, because for some reason they believed that who Naz was, the very part of him that he treasured the most, the thing that he was proud of the most, which was his identity, they believed that was a disease and it had to be got rid of. And that conversation was left unfinished as we raced back down to London for our friend's funeral. And then 2 days later, I sadly got a phone call to come home from work, but I wasn't told why. And as I raced up the street, wondering why I'd been told to go home, I ran up the street, and as I entered the road that we recently moved into, that's when I saw the crowds, the police, the blue lights, the road was sealed off, people were taking photos. And as I tried to force my way into our building, that's when the police took me to one side and they bundled me into the police car. And as I climbed into the police car, I glanced across to the pavement, and that's when I saw a red blanket on the floor. And that's when I began to realise that the man that I loved, the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with, he was sadly no longer here. And in that moment and for the next few days, all I wanted to do was to follow the man that I loved. And I wanted to do exactly the same thing that he had done, because I believed that was the only way forward. I went missing for 2 days. The police were out looking for me. Family were looking for me. Everyone was searching for me. And all I wanted to do was just do one thing. And eventually I came back home. And all I wanted to do, and the only thing I had on my mind was that I must follow Naz because we have to be back together. And at the moment when I was about to actually, without going into detail, when I was about to follow Naz and actually continue, that's when I heard his voice. And that's when I heard his voice. It wasn't that voice that we all have in the back of our head. It was this loud, bellowing voice that says, Matt, darling, I know you think you haven't got a reason to stay, but I'm going to ask you to do something. And because you always did everything I ever asked of you, I know you're going to do this for me. And I want you to stay, and I want you to set up a group or a foundation or something that will stop other people in our situation having to go through what we went through. And as his voice disappeared, instead of in this way, I walked back into the flat, I locked the door, sat on the floor, and I cried. And that's where the Naz Matt Foundation came from. It came from Naz's voice, stopping me from taking my own life. And that's why it means so much to me, and that's why I put so much energy in, because if if it can save my life, then why can't it help other people too?
And it clearly has. I mean, I know the before we talk, I suppose, about the work that you do, can you tell us a little bit about Naz and what he was like?
Naz was and he still is, the most beautiful, loving, caring human being that I'm ever going to meet. He was funny. He was so caring and so loving, and he would always put other people in front of himself. He would never put himself first. You know, he was a GP, a doctor. He's worked in accident emergencies, worked in the sexual health wards. You know, he spent his entire life helping other people, and when he became the GP, it was, you know, one of the proudest moments of us being together, because, you know, when he qualified as a GP, he only wanted me to go with him. He didn't want his family to be with him at graduation. He wanted me to be there. And when he got his first job as a GP, he was so loved in the community that he got a job at a small practice, and individuals would wait, his patients would wait for weeks upon weeks to have an appointment with him because they wanted to see him only. And I know all this, not because Naz told me, because he would never boast. He would never say anything. He never saw the good that he gave to other people. He just saw it as a thing that he was just, that's how he did it. And when Naz passed away, I received a book from many of his patients at the doctor's surgery about how he changed their life as their GP. And
you must be so proud.
So proud of him. I mean, so proud. And I'm so proud. And even though this tragedy, which has ruined both of our lives, happened, I am proud that he did do the one thing that he always wanted to do, which was to tell this one parent who they gave birth to. And that was something that he wanted to do for his whole life, but believed that he couldn't. And it might sound really strange for me to say that, but I'm just proud of everything that he did and everything that he stood for.
It was obviously really very brave of Naz to come out, and I think it's incredibly brave of you to turn something so tragic and something so life-changing into something that's so positive and so helpful for the community, and not just the LGBT community, but also for allies and for families of the LGBT community. And I think that is admirable. And I mean, I know that you've gone from, you know, a small front room foundation, very much like ours started, to being something really quite special now. And I know that you've helped a lot of people in similar situations, and you work with families. So can you tell us perhaps a little bit about the ways in which the Naz and Matt Foundation helps particularly families that are struggling to deal with their children being LGBT?
Yes, of course. When I announced that I was going to start the foundation back in 2014, I mean, I'm not from a charity background. I have no charity experience. I mean, the most I'd ever done was sponsor somebody for like a sponsored walk. So I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. When I started to come up with ideas about what we should do, or what, you know, what the sorts of things we should try out, my dad actually said to me, he said, you know, he said, son, now is not the time to try and decide what you need to do. Now is the time to wait for people to come to you, and they will ask you what they need you to do. And that's what many of the things that we do now in the foundation, it's come from individuals hearing about our story and actually coming forward to ask us to help in a certain way. And that's why it's really important for us to continue sharing our stories, because by doing so, individuals realize that they have a place that they can come to where they know that they're going to be understood. And so some of the things that we do now, we go in, outside of the pandemic, we would go into secondary schools to give talks about the dangers of religious homophobia and bullying within the classroom, and also to allow students to know, if they are LGBT, to know that this is safe. There is a positive future for them, and that their teachers can support them in this journey that they're on. We've spoken, they're giving talks to central government departments, police forces. We work with other charities and big events where we can actually share our story to try and raise awareness about religion and homophobia, because it's not really talked about enough. I know everybody knows it's there, but it's not really talked about in a clear enough way that actually attempts to try and tackle the very things that cause it. And there are lots of other organisations that also work in the same area, which is really good. We focus specifically on the religious homophobia, and we've got a book for primary schools, which some primary schools have purchased and are using within their school. Later this year we will be releasing our first book for religious parents, which was written with based on interviews with religious parents of LGBTQ individuals, and some of their children are also interviewed in the book. And we do a lot of the work we do is support work. So individuals who contact our charity, sometimes they need to talk about their feelings or desire to come out, and asking for advice about coming out to their family. Sometimes, sadly, individuals come to us when their family have found out and their family has quite literally kicked them out onto the street, and they might need emergency shelter, emergency refuge. We also do a lot of work for individuals who really need to find asylum in the UK, because if they sent back to their country of birth because they're LGBT, they face abuse, and in some cases they face death if they go back to their country of birth. So we work a lot with individuals to build up their cases, to ensure that they find safety in the UK, where they can be free to be themselves, where they can be the person they were born to be. So we do quite a lot of things, and I guess a big thing that we did last year, well, two big things we did last year. We did on the day that Naz passed away, on the 30th of July. Every year that day has been lived in darkness. It's been one of the most difficult days to get through, and Naz wouldn't want that. He was such a positive person that we couldn't continue to live that 30th of July in complete darkness. And so, speaking to a few incredible people who now volunteer with our charity, we decided to reclaim the day as a positive day that would actually be, in a sense, almost based on kind of what happened to Naz, and actually using that really bad energy to actually reinvent it as a positive day. And we do, so now this year will be our third year. We do something called Out and Proud Parents Day, where, as you know, as an LGBT person, one of the most difficult things to ever do is to come out to our parents, because we never know how they're going to react. And if they react badly, it could be one of the worst things that we do. And so we thought, wouldn't it be so much easier if there were role model parents, if there were parents who are from religious backgrounds and non-religious backgrounds, who are proud of their LGBTQI children, who are willing to come out to their family, to come out to their community, and come out to the public on social media to tell the world how proud they are of their LGBTQI children. And last year we managed to reach about 1.5 million people in North America, India, and the UK as well, with parents from all different religious and cultural backgrounds taking part in video interviews and talking about their experiences, and also talking about their unconditional love for their own children. And that was that's what I'm really proud of, what happened last year. And I guess just one big thing we did last year, which was we released our first documentary called My God, I'm Queer, which is a 30-minute documentary which starts off with Naz and my very tragic, sad story, but then we move into a much happier place where we explore the lives of a number of different queer individuals who are born into Muslim families, about their positive experiences, about their happiness and their optimism for a bright future ahead. So it's actually finishes in a really positive way, I believe.
That's incredible. I know Out and Proud Parents Day is something that you're really proud of, and we would certainly like to get behind that at Pride in Surrey. I'd just like to play your promotional video about Out and Proud Parents Day, just to show our viewers a little bit more about that. Is that okay with you?
Thank you, yes.
I've got 3 sons, so it's Shannon, Chauvin, and Stuart. Chauvin is my middle boy. I'll tell you this, and it may sound a bit childish, but Sherwin chooses me as his best friend, and that makes my heart really happy.
My name's Sarah, and I'm an out and proud mum of my daughter who's bi, and she's called Thea.
My name is Robin, and I'm an out and proud parent of a transgender child.
Hello, my name's Bill. I'm a member of the Church of Scotland, and I am a proud parent of our gay son Stephen and our non-binary daughter Kirsty.
I'm Tejender, and I'm a Sikh, and I am an out and proud parent of my transgender son, Jay.
I'm an out and proud Christian parent of an amazing gay daughter.
My name is Aruna. I'm a proud Hindu, and I'm an out and proud parent of a queer and trans child whose name is Leo.
I am a Christian, and I'm an out and proud parent to my gay son.
My name is Mehreen. I'm a Pakistani Muslim, out and proud parent of my transgender son, Charlie.
First thing that comes to mind, pack your bags and come to me. I'm your new mother.
Oh, I love that. It must make you so proud, Matt, to think that something so beautiful has been able to come from such a sad story for you.
Yeah, it's difficult sometimes to even think about what's happened, but what is really inspirational is the individuals that step forward to actually say, I don't want that to happen to anyone else ever again. So how can I help? And to be able to have the honor and privilege to speak to all of those parents last year, and to be allowed into their lives, to hear their positive experiences and their journey with acceptance towards their own children. And one really amazing thing, I mean, all of the parents that we interviewed were incredible, when we keep in contact with a number of them as well. And one of the parents featured in that video, Sabrina, she's actually now our first parental ambassador as well. So she's joined the foundation as a volunteer to help spread the love to all the parents around the world. So it's
fabulous. I mean, that video it's just so powerful. It's really powerful. And I think affirming for parents, I think, who may feel that conflict. I wanted to ask you, do you think that Naz was surprised by the extreme reaction of his parents?
No, he wasn't. I think, if I'm honest, I think he was expecting something more extreme than what he got, because and the thing is, and the thing I probably never made 100% clear is the fact that he never chose to come out at that moment. He was confronted about it. The thing is, because Naz was the most honest and genuine person you could ever meet, which got him into trouble quite a few times. But he didn't know how to. He just didn't know the concept of lying. He just didn't know the concept of bending the truth. He just said it exactly as it was. And because when he was asked that question for the very first time at the age of 34, because he'd broken down into tears about something slightly connected to this, and because he was in tears and he was asked by that parent, why are you crying, is it because you like men? In that moment, he didn't know how else to respond, because he wouldn't know how to lie about it. And he was given that opportunity to tell that parent who they really gave birth to. And I think in his mind, I know in his mind he'd built it up so much for it to be far more vocal, loud, and shouting than it happened. And I think that really threw him in many ways, because if he'd been shouted at, I think he could have handled that a lot better, because he was the sort of person when I've seen this before, when we, I've seen people, in kind of public spaces, like crazy people come up to Naz in the past, literally shout in his face, and he wouldn't even blink. It would just be kind of just look at them, and he would just, should we just, what's this about? So he knew how to handle intense discussion, and I think in his particular situation, for the response to have been so direct in basically saying the thing that was so important to him, the only way he could receive the unconditional love from that parent was to actually get rid of it. Which, of course, you can't get rid of your identity without getting rid of yourself.
I wonder, Matt, have you noticed, after having worked in this field now for 5-6 years, have you noticed a shift in attitudes at all within certain communities, or is there still just as much of a battle ahead?
It's definitely a big, massive battle ahead. I think what is positive to see is that before Naz passed away, I can't remember seeing individuals from the same religious background who were queer or LGBTQI. I can't recall seeing them in the news, in the media, on social media. I can't recall seeing them in the newspapers. I can't recall seeing them in radio. What has been positive is that compared to 6-7 years ago, there is a number of incredibly inspiring queer Muslim individuals who speak out on the public stage, who give talks, who do comedy shows, who are in the news, in the press. We're featured in our film as well. And that is a really massive positive change, to see more people stepping forward to actually share their story. I mean, we are seeing, some successes in the individuals that we support when they have successfully come out to their parents. And we've had also a few people come forward to actually say, I gave an interview in 2015 to The Guardian, and it took months for them to write the article, because it was so detailed and it was so difficult and raw to tell them the story. But that's the most detailed public account in writing, in written form, of what happened. And people have come to our events and actually said, I just wanted to come and say thank you, because that article I actually used to come out to my family, because by presenting that article to them, they knew what could happen if they didn't become more open to having a conversation about their identity. So we are seeing the successes with families, and we are seeing a shift with more people talking about it. But what really needs to happen is more conversations like this, and more allies to step forward and actually invite individuals who don't often get to use the same platforms as kind of perhaps the wider kind of LGBT community. So I think we need more stronger allies who are willing to share platforms, or even give up their platforms, to allow more voices who aren't heard enough to actually raise their voices and actually allow them to speak their truth and their authentic journeys as well.
So we've been doing quite a lot of research. A theme of this year's LGBT History Month being Mind, Body, Spirit, and as part of Spirit, we've been very interested in religion and faith. And just a little flick through Facebook now, there are lots and lots of support groups for people of various faiths, and for people of all faiths. And there seems to be maybe I wouldn't call it a surge, but there's a rise in people who are prepared to form almost, mini communities within themselves to create those support networks, to say, I am Jewish and queer, I am Muslim and queer, I am Catholic and queer. And it seems to be that there are communities creating themselves, and that visibility can only be a positive thing, can't it?
Absolutely. I mean, quite often individuals might find their strength from the numbers of people they can see who are similar to themselves in one or more different ways. So that's why it's really important for more people to speak out and to create these safe spaces, and to ensure that nobody is left behind and voices are shared and given safe environments to do so. And I think it's really important that more conversations are had with different people from different faith backgrounds and individuals from no faith backgrounds to actually talk about this. And I think the thing that I would love to see a lot more of. And, you know, we're certainly doing our bit with Out and Proud Parents Day, but, you know, there needs to be a huge, massive shift to see more proud parents speak about their children. Because if we in terms of our strategy, we break things down into kind of three main areas. You've got individuals who need support because they're going through, you know, this situation right now. But you know, our charity wasn't set out as a support organisation. We were set out to try and bring the changes that we want to see, to ensure that somebody else doesn't have to go through that. So the only way to do that is to actually work on a long-term vision for actually how we can actually influence and inspire change, you know, not just ourselves, but with lots of other organisations as well. And, you know, some people say to us, you know, why don't you work more with, you know, religious leaders? And so as a small charity, we have to make certain choices, and we focus on working with the parents, because the way we see it is the parents are the individuals who can make this problem go away overnight if they chose to. You know, a religious leader, yes, they're important, and yes, they influence their community with positive affirmational messages. That would be incredibly powerful. But if a religious leader gave out a positive message, but the parents refused to accept that and gave out a negative message to their children, then this problem can't go away. So we focus on hopefully creating positive messages for parents, and the only way to continue doing this is to raise the voices of more parents so that they become the role models that other parents can see and identify with, so they feel that they're not the only one in their local community or in the national community, or however they choose to identify themselves. But it's important that other parents see other parents proud, happy, accepting, and having a wonderful relationship with their children.
Absolutely. So if there's anyone watching this evening, any parents in particular that want to get in touch with you, they want to know how they can help, they want to know how they can become involved and help other people, how would they go about that?
So I'd say, first of all, I mean, on July the 30th, we're going to be launching the 3rd ever Out and Proud Parents Day. On July the 30th, we encourage parents to share their stories, their photos, their poems, their words, anything on social media that gives out a positive message, share using the tag Out and Proud Parents Day. But if parents want to start doing something right now, you know, they can reach out and contact us, because we're now starting recruitment to find the 2021 parents who would like to be interviewed on camera and actually be part of the interviews that we put out on the day. So we're actively looking for parents from different backgrounds, who come from different faith communities, who have an experience with their LGBTQI child and are willing to share it, sometimes and quite often for the first time in public. You know, we will interview that parent, we'll work with them to produce an incredibly powerful interview that's a positive reflection of their experiences. And I'd say, outside of those things, I think what's really important is if you've got a parent who's watching this, then I would like to think that they're already on the journey towards accepting their children. And if they are, and they know a parent who isn't, then to reach out to that parent and just let that other parent who isn't quite there, to actually let them know that there's someone else who's with them. Because what we need to understand, that parents, well, I'm not a parent myself, but parents like myself and like everyone else, you know, we are the product of our journey. And if a parent has got themselves into a situation where they're unable to understand, and then they fear who their child is or what their child is going to become, then we need to realize that journey has been constructed from experiences. And if we can understand that parent got there through their experiences and their information and knowledge that is either given to them or they picked up on the way, then there is a way to actually unpick that information and actually help them to unlearn those thoughts that they might have at the moment. And the best way to do that is to feed and give individuals from any background the positive stories, success stories. I mean, it's not a very nice term, but, you know, positive stories of other people who they can identify with, who are leading happy and wonderful lives, you know, with their children.
Yeah, I think it is important to recognize that, you know, from a parent's point of view, because just to give it some context, we have a queer child, and you know, we're obviously a same-sex couple, and so would consider ourselves to be very open. But when she came out to us, I have to admit, I was completely
quite surprised,
shocked and stunned. And I probably didn't react in the best way, but none of that is, I wasn't horrible or anything, but I was just so completely shocked. But none of that needs to stay that way. You can repair that. So if that initial reaction wasn't as you would like it to have been as a parent, you can work on that, and you can work with your child. And you know, what advice would you give to parents who may be watching, who may suspect that their child might be beginning to come to the point where they may be wishing to come out to them? How would you advise people to react to a coming out?
I would say the single most important thing is for that parent to give their child a big hug and just tell them that they love them no matter what. And if there's anything that they ever want to talk to them about, then they're going to be there for them. And then to leave it at that and let the child choose when to come out. You know, but just let the child know that there's a safe place at home with that parent and they're loved no matter what. And then let that experience, I think, will be a big enough step for that child to understand that they can trust their parent when they do feel it's the right time to share who they are and who their parent gave birth to.
Excellent advice.
Yeah, just love them.
Yeah. Listen, Matt, thank you so much for speaking to us. And in a way, I wish we didn't have to be here. And in a way, I wish you hadn't had to set up the Naz and Matt Foundation. But we're very glad that you have, because you're obviously doing some incredible work, and you're obviously helping a lot of people, both, you know, the queer community and their families, to navigate something which is very tricky in terms of religion and culture. And I think you're doing an incredible job, and we're certainly very proud of you. We're proud to now be associated with the Naz and Matt Foundation, and we hope to be able to work with you in future. So thank you so much for everything you do for our communities. We really appreciate you.
And what a great way to honour your lovely Naz.
Thank you. I mean, thank you very much. Those words were so lovely. I need to really thank, you know, everyone who makes the Naz and Matt Foundation happen. I mean, it might seem, you know, my face in these videos the most, but in actual fact, you know, we exist because of the kind donations from parents, from LGBTQ individuals, from people who want to support our work, and, you know, the volunteers as well. You know, in the video that we shared, you could see how many volunteers who helped out on Pride Day and actually step in when we really need the help. So I'd like to say thank you to everyone who enabled Naz and Matt Foundation to actually do our work, and thank you for interviewing us as well.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolute
So
pleasure.
It's crucial that you get the funding in. So how can people donate to you?
So if they go to our website, which is nazandmattfoundation.org, and then go to the donate page, they can donate by you know, just giving or PayPal giving fund, which there's no fees, so we get all the money directly. You know, do events. You know, we can do direct bank transfer donations, but you know, what we often need the most is for people to amplify the voices within our community, and that's really important. So yes, of course, donations are amazing, but I think what's more important for the long term is actually to look at the content we're posting, look at the videos that we're creating, and actually go and share them with your own community and actually show them to as many people as they can.
That's fantastic advice, and hopefully we'll be able to touch base with you closer to Out and Proud Parents Day, and we can get you up to that 2021 number of proud parents prepared to make a video.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That'd be great.
Thank you so much for your time today, Matt. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
Both of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.